I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about the different modifiers that I use and the different situations in which I might use them. So just to be talking back about the Africa trip again, because a lot of people ask me questions about the lighting, I can tell you that about 95% of the time I use just a normal softbox, and this is actually the real softbox I took with me to Ethiopia. It's just a standard policy buff softbox. But you can see here that I use Profoto lighting, so this is the Profoto speed ring that I was talking about that I got at B&H. And yeah, it's just really standard box. But what can determine, one thing that I hate hearing on when people are describing their lighting setup is when they just simply say, yeah, and I use one softbox for the main light. Because every single different position that you move your softbox in, every single inch is going to make a huge difference in the quality of the light. So one of the main things that I focus on when I'm lighting is not just simply using a softbox, but it's where it is and exactly how it's positioned. And how you can dictate that is using the hot spot. Every softbox will have a hot spot. So when the light goes in here, right, and it flashes, the light is in the center here. So inside the softbox, this part of the box is actually going to be the strongest of where the light is coming out. The light is going to come out strongest right here. Now, lighting companies have battled this a little bit by trying to make their softboxes nice and flat by adding another layer of diffusion material like this on the inside called an inner baffle. And that's what these little hooks here are to hook up. So one goes here, one goes here, one goes here, one goes here, and it just holds another layer of diffusion material in front of that light to help get it nice and flat. But I don't like that at all. I take it out because I actually use this hot spot and use, I guess, the sign of a faulty softbox to my advantage. I use the hot spot to my own advantage in lighting to get a kind of dramatic look in a couple different ways. The first way is that when I take a portrait, so for example, this portrait that I took of a Hammer chief elder named Bona, I use the hot spot of the light really, really close to his face. So in that actual picture, the softbox was really, really close. It was probably about here, and I was shooting from just underneath of where the softbox is now. So it was all really claustrophobic. But what that did was, when the light flashed, the majority of the light here hit his face dead on, and it just kind of feathered out all around his lower body here, and feathered out all around his face here. So it ended up putting a kind of spotlight right on his eyes, and it ended up looking really, really dramatic. And since the softbox was so close to his face, I ended up getting a pretty nice big catch light, the reflection of this in his eyes. So that's one technique that I use that hot spot for, just to get the feathered light around. But the second way that I like to use a softbox is, since the hot spot is here, what that means is you get nice feathered soft light around the edges here. So when I light a subject and I want things a little bit less contrasty, I actually use the softbox in a way so that when it flashes, the main light is actually missing the subject. It's actually pointed a little bit away from them. So if I was the subject here, the box wouldn't be like this. It would actually be missing me a little bit just to get this nice edge light here. And some photographers are famous for using that effect, like Annie Leibovitz has a huge octabank, a huge nice diffusion material over it, but it's actually missing the subject, so the subject gets that nice feathered quality to their skin. So I like to use a softbox as the main light sometimes, but in other situations I like to use the beauty dish. Now, just speaking in terms of my Africa trip again, I didn't really like using a beauty dish because it ended up making the pictures look a little bit too commercial. And I know that's funny to say because I use studio lighting, so of course it's going to look commercial. But it just gives a really kind of, I guess, in effect right now, which I didn't really like for my Africa photos. So, but however, I do like to use this a lot on my commercial work just because it really gives a nice punchy effect. So what happens when the light goes through here is it both reflects off this white thing and it also projects and reflects off all the silver surface. So it ends up giving a really, really contrasty yet soft light. It's a really good modifier. And I use a silver dish. They also come in white, but I prefer silver just because it's a little bit more contrasty. It throws the light a little bit further. And I actually find this light looks really, really nice on dark skin because black people have such a much nicer contrast range in the skin. You can, you know, give them a lot more contrast and a lot more power before their skin simply blows out. So with this like nice silver, I just find that the reflections that I get and the tonal range, I just really, really like to use the beauty dish for it. Sometimes the main light spreads a little bit too much and it ends up hitting my subject and also a bunch of other stuff in the frame. So this can be avoided by using a grid. Of course I rap about this as well, but the grid fits inside the beauty dish like this, or any light modifier for that matter. And now instead of the softbox, or instead of this beauty dish reflecting and spraying everywhere, it is focused through these honeycomb shapes and just kind of directed in one general direction. So it gives a kind of spotlight effect, so it can be really, really nice and dramatic sometimes. And you can also get them for softboxes as well. This is my softbox here, and this is the grid for it. It's the same concept as the beauty dish, a kind of shape in which the light is focused through, and it just fits on just like that. And I use this a lot in Ethiopia as well to get really kind of dramatic light that doesn't affect anything except the subject. So it fits on like that. Okay, so sometimes not using a modifier at all works and gives an interesting effect. So for example, a lot of the times I just use a straight bare bulb. This is a Profoto head again. As you can tell, it's a little bit scratched up. It's been around the world. But the bare bulb effect from just this light is actually really cool because it's got this nice glass diffusion dome on it, and actually the new Alien Bees lights have these as well, which I haven't tried out yet, so maybe they're good, maybe not. So when this is set up, I use this for a number of things. On a background, right behind it, hidden out of frame, when it flashes, it can give a nice gradient effect on the wall. Or it can just work good as a main light for a bunch of subjects, since you have this nice harsh light coming from one way. All the subjects are going to be lit because it's 360 degrees that it projects around, but they're all going to have different characteristics on their face. A guy sitting right here is going to look different than a guy sitting right here, but all the light is going to appear to be coming from the same source. And sometimes that light can be a little bit harsh. So you can actually get things that go over these called a pro globe for Profoto, and it basically looks like a big fish bowl that's slightly tinted white, and that will diffuse the light and give you the same quality. Now in the film industry, people use this technique quite a bit, and it's just called Chinese lanterns, which are those paper lanterns that are used in Japanese and Chinese festivals. So it just gives a really nice quality of light that's consistent and projects 360 degrees, but on each subject it gives a slightly different effect. Now, if you don't have a Profoto light, it's really easy to make something similar to a Pro Globe. I found a bunch of stuff in the lighting section of a department store. If you just go there and look at all the little ball-like lanterns that they have to cover ceiling fans, one of those would actually fit really nicely on one of these, or even a speed light flash, and it would give you the same kind of effect.